the everybody gets a trophy mentality. That everybody seems to hate that everybody ought to get a trophy. Everybody should earn their trophy. No single person should have a trophy if they didn't earn their trophy. How dare there be tons of bowl games, but we'll sit down and watch it anyway because it's football. You do realize these extra bowl games just exist to make more money. And some of these bowl games don't even have clever names. They're just sponsored names followed by the word bowl. It's incredible what we will sit down and watch in the name of football. We will sit down and watch it in the name of football. We won't actually process what it is that we're looking at. Okay, like we've got the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. Alabama is going to be playing Michigan State in the Cotton Bowl, which of course is now the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. Clemson and Oklahoma in the Capital One Orange Bowl. I don't know how many sponsors' names we will attach to things, but trust me, one day. But then like we look at some of these bowls. Look at the names of some of these bowls. Actually, before I jump into this, because I want to laugh, but I don't think I'm gonna laugh. I think actually I might cry. How corporatized some of these things are. It's actually borderline depressing. This is Clutch with Keon Rose. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, and you search Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You'll find us. TuneIn Radio. It's a wonderful app that lets you listen to the show if you're out of your car, if you're away from a radio. Have a mobile device, go to the Apple Store or Google Play Store, download the TuneIn Radio app, absolutely free. I love it and use it and have it on my phone. And give us a follow, press play, have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. And, of course, you can always find us at hotnewstalkradio.com. But some of these bowl games, they're so corporate. And I realize now, because it's just the nature of the game, that you got to pay the bills in order to watch this thing free of cost. Sponsors have to be involved. Advertisers have to be involved. That's not just with sports. That's just with radio in general. In order for you to listen to the David Tulis show featuring Nooganomics, there's still sponsors and commercials and ads involved to make that free of cost to you, that the advertiser picks up the cost so that you don't have to. Okay? I just think that there's a point where you can cross the line, where there can be so many sponsors and something can be so corporatized as to be silly. Okay? And here we are with some of these bowl games that I feel like you and 10 friends could play in this bowl game. That's how inconsequential they sound. Ranging in ridiculousness from the GoDaddy Bowl, which, okay, GoDaddy.com, it's a web hosting site. I mean, it's got a use that everybody can use. If you want a website, you can go to GoDaddy.com. That's fine. That's fair. That's fair. How about this bowl game? The San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl. First off, that is way too many words. That is way too many syllables for watching a bunch of guys throw a ball around. All right? That's one. Two, the two teams involved in the San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl are Boise State and Northern Illinois. So none of these teams having anything to do with San Diego whatsoever. Three, the game is played in Qualcomm Stadium in Seattle. The game is in Seattle, featuring two teams that are not from San Diego. It's just this is ridiculous. The San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl. Do you use San Diego County Credit Union? Why do they need a bowl game? Whatever for? Middle Tennessee, right up the road from us, in the Popeyes Bahamas Bowl. The game is in the Bahamas, which I suppose is nice. That seems pretty cool. Brought to you by Popeyes Chicken. There's a point of critical mass with all of this. There's a point of critical mass. And I'm sorry if I sound like my nose is filled with, I don't know, 100 bees, but it's backed up in there. I'm having some allergy issues. I could have stayed home. I could have not come in and done the show today, but you'll just have to listen to the more nasal version of my voice. That's just how this is going to go. You'll just have to survive somehow. As I whine and complain about bowl games being both silly and ridiculous, because they are. We've reached a point of critical mass, I think, where we'll just watch football and we don't care whose name is in front of it or what is being represented. And I think that takes this to the furthest extreme, which is that we don't care what happens to the players on the field. They're interchangeable, because if we're willing to sit down and watch Northern Illinois play Boise State in a game sponsored by San Diego County Credit Union, when we could be doing literally anything else, we might have to admit we have a problem. That football might be more than just plain recreation for us, that I think that it's just gone past that into the point of bizarre addiction. That I share this addiction, so I'm not judging anybody. Okay, I too will watch football, and bad football at that, just to watch football. But when we start to get to the idea and to the question of the fact that people are becoming mentally ill playing football and physically ill playing football, and that this year people have died playing football, where is the point that we morally look at this and go, we shouldn't be watching as much as we're watching, or we should watch it differently? I'm not even of the variety that says we should watch it differently. I want to watch football the way that I've always watched it. But if the rules of the game have to change to make people safer, I'm actually okay with that. Because here's the thing. These are human beings playing a game. Okay? They're human beings playing a game. And what's happening to them is not happening in other sports that are being played. It's just not. It's not happening in baseball. It's certainly not happening in basketball. There are physical contact sports that require a lot of strength and a lot of toughness, like rugby, that this is not happening in rugby. Not at the same rate. It's not even close. Okay? The only other sport that's close is hockey. And hockey is the other sport where players do use their head, where players do get concussions. The hockey was missing Sidney Crosby, probably the best hockey player of the last decade or so, missed him for 2 to 3 years because he was out with a concussion. Because he was out with a concussion. And if we're willing to sit down and watch football, regardless of who is playing and what it's called, whether we're watching Miami versus Washington State in the Hyundai Sun Bowl, or Washington versus Southern Miss in the Zaxby's Heart of Dallas Bowl. What? If we're willing to sit down and watch that, and seriously watch that, and not watch this in any way ironically, seriously try to enjoy Washington versus Southern Miss in the Zaxby's Heart of Dallas Bowl, if we're willing to actually try and sit down and watch that, then we might be willing to sit down and watch a sport where people are dying and not care. Like what these advertisers have unintentionally taught us, or at least what they're unintentionally showing us, is how little we care about what it is that we are consuming, and how willing we are to just do it. Like, we'll just watch football even if it's not good. Even if it's not good, even if it has so many names that it's completely corporatized. The Tax Slayer Bowl, which Tennessee won last year, that Georgia is going to be in this year on January the 2nd. I just, what point is enough? Where we're just like, okay, this might be too much that the game of football is not worth you asking me to watch the Motel 6 Cactus Bowl, where the game of football might not be worth me sitting down watching someone killing themselves, where possibly the game of football might not be worth watching a high school kid kill themselves. Because, I mean, high school kids have died this year playing football. Like, if we can't make this safer, if we can make it safer, then we shouldn't complain about making it safer. Okay, like the logic behind how it is that we go about this, and I see it all the time where people go, look at this, we're making the game wimpy. The game is less tough than it used to be. That's true, but also the premium that our society puts on toughness has decreased because there is something a little barbaric about what we used to call tough. It just is. Okay, the things that we know now, we wouldn't drive our cars without airbags in them because tougher people used to drive their cars without airbags. That is correct. But cars these days are bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. You're gonna want an airbag if you ever get into an accident. Okay? I drive a Honda Civic. That ain't a big car. If I get hit by somebody, I'm going to want all my airbags. That's just a fact. Don't judge my Civic. It's a compact car. It's very affordable. It's a very affordable car. Mileage is wonderful. But we want to say, here's us being tough like back in the old days. Any change to the game of football, any change to any sport that we like, that modernizes it, we say that it's weakening it. You could beat people up in the NBA back in the day. Okay? Actually throw punches at guys and not get ejected. Okay? And not be suspended for future games. But we don't do that anymore. And I think that's for the better. These sports are getting safer because the guys playing them are not unlike the cars with the extra airbags, bigger, stronger, and faster than they used to be. The collisions are just harder. You've got to eliminate some of that risk. You have to. Okay, the CTE, the brain trauma, that's real. And the more we learn about it, the safer we ought to try and be. We don't do this with safety and other things. We don't want our planes to run like when the Wright brothers were first making planes. Why do we want our football to work like that? Why do we want our basketball to work like that? You've got to advance with the times. You just have to. Okay, I'm not trying to get on a flight with a plane that's got propellers. I would like a jet engine, please. It's just a fact. We got to get with the times, especially when it comes to football, especially when it comes to safety and watching our fellow human beings play this game. We have a lot of injuries in this sport already. Come on. Let's get with it. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. We'll get into some of these bowls, but I saw the names of the games and I already was just put off. The AutoZone Liberty Bowl? Seriously? The Battle Frog Fiesta Bowl? We'll be back when I'm done laughing to talk about the bowl games and much more here on Clutch with Keon Rose. Next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Do I sound like a guy who loves to eat? Yeah. You too? Guess what? I cook the meanest hamburger in Hickson at my little restaurant, Armando's at Chester Frost Park. That's it. Right by the entrance, Chester Frost Park on Hickson Pike. I'd like you to come by and let me cook you dinner too. Bring your family, kids, friends. Lunch for common folk, just not the common lunch. Yeah, we're perfect for lunch. And dinner too. Meat guy? Yeah. Potatoes? Yeah. Catfish, BLTs, pecan pie, hot cup of coffee or ice cold sweet tea. Armando's. That's us. Go on by 11 to 9, Monday through Saturday, right outside the entrance, Chester Frost Park, across from Thrasher.
I love my Flex loan from Advance Financial. I needed cash, I needed it fast, and I didn't want to get a payday loan. My Flex loan from Advance Financial is not a payday loan. It's a line of credit. I only pay for the cash I need, and I only pay for the time that I need it. There's no lump sum payment. My Advance Financial Flex loan is an open line of credit, and I can get cash anytime I need it.
Visit one of our 24/7 locations and get the cash you need today. Advance Financial. Welcome.
Lay your burdens down at the Woodhouse. Leave all your worries at the door. Just take some time. We're transforming lives.
Happy holidays at the Wood. From the Woodhouse Day Spa. Holiday gift cards available at chattanooga.woodhousespas.com.
Tax-free investing, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Edward Jones financial advisor Patrick Neal. Patrick will be giving a seminar December 10 at 6 o'clock and offering free barbecue dinner. His topic will be tax-free investing. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. We'll be talking about strategies in reducing your tax burden and in buying municipal bonds. Call 870-7894. That's 870-7894. Edward Jones and your host will be Patrick Neal, making sense of investing.
Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, myself for all the action.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If it's the NFL, it's right here.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Looking great out there through the afternoon with lots of sunshine, highs warming into the lower 60s. Tonight, fair, lows into the upper 30s. May see a little more late fog. For Wednesday, increasing clouds, especially for the afternoon, highs near 60, partly cloudy and mild weather returns Thursday. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's, it's always good. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ward.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Will Muschamp is now the head coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks officially, and he had the presser yesterday with the media talking about a number of different things, his plans with the school, how he plans on moving forward as head coach of that team. And we'll get into it a little bit, talking about whether or not Will Muschamp is actually a good fit for South Carolina, which I'm not going to lie, I think I'm in the minority of this one. I think he is actually a pretty good fit, and I know that Will Muschamp can coach a defense, and I don't think that that's really up for debate. I don't know that there's a dispute there necessarily. The issue, of course, is how well can he recruit? How well can he work with whoever he has running this offense? How is that going to work out? Because he didn't work great at Florida. And can Will Muschamp keep his mouth shut? That plays a huge part of this too. I don't think that people realize. I personally like coaches to have personality. That is my belief, that I think people ought to have personality. I think people ought to be who they are. That if you are Brett Bielema, we shouldn't beat up on you for being Brett Bielema and saying Brett Bielema things. Loud, obnoxious Brett Bielema. That's what we like about him. Brett Bielema is always fun for a quote. Okay? especially being in the media, my job gets harder. My job gets harder when coaches do the usual coach thing that they always do, which is use a lot of words to say a lot of nothing. Okay, I prefer Brett Bielema, but Will Muschamp lost his job in Florida in part because he ran his mouth a lot. And when you run your mouth a lot and then you don't win, it looks bad. And when it looks bad, you get fired. Okay, I went back and looked at Lane Kiffin coaching at Tennessee. Lane Kiffin didn't get much time at Tennessee. Okay, and during a short time here, he wasn't extremely successful, but he did beat Alabama. He had a couple of pretty good wins and maybe could have even moved in a better direction. I don't know. It's hard to tell with him. It really is. But Lane Kiffin did lose his job in part because he did not know how to shut up. Again, I'm never going to be the guy to tell you what to say and what not to say. I'm a grown man. You're a grown man. You figure out what you're going to say. I'll just react to it. And I don't need to tear you down for saying things that may or may not be outrageous, especially when it comes to regards to football. Okay, this is not Donald Trump saying that we should ban Muslims from the country. This is football. Okay, it's sports. I don't need to tear you down. I don't need to act like this is a federal case. It's just sports. If you say something outrageous, fine. So long as you're not saying something that's sexist or racist, I'm pretty much cool. But coaches neuter themselves. They take their personality. They throw it out the window. They keep it at someplace private. They maybe take out their personality occasionally for some time with the family, put their personality back in the box, and go back to work. They don't say things that are interesting. They don't say things that are cool or funny, most of them, because that's a good way to get fired, especially when you're not winning and all eyes are on you. A lot of cliches come from coaches, due in part to the fact that cliches keep you under the radar. Butch Jones has done a pretty decent job at Tennessee, okay? But he hasn't been stellar. Tennessee fans have been suffering for a long time, want to see something good from the Vols, right? Like that's fair. Butch Jones has a pretty decently long leash for two reasons, okay? Because there was a point in this season, Tennessee fan, and you remember, because you were all talking about it. Now I was listening to you talk about it, and I was talking to some of you about it. There was a point this season, especially after the Florida loss, you all wanted Butch Jones run. You wanted him out of this town. Like you wanted him gone. And Butch Jones has done two things to keep himself here and to make this situation look a whole lot more hopeful. One is that he never promised anything. Butch Jones, in fact, if anything, understates stuff to an annoying degree. Things that I would pay large amounts of money to never hear Butch Jones say ever again are, whatever team they're about to play, X team is the toughest team we've ever faced yet. They're the toughest defense. They're the trickiest offense. Their special teams are so good. It's like, Butch, stop complimenting them so much. You coached up a team too that people expect to win. That Butch Jones was always going to be talking about how young this team is, and he's going to be talking about how, they've got to change habits and all of these things. It's like, dude, you're in year 3. If you haven't changed habits by now, it ain't going to happen. But Butch Jones continues to run out the same 6 cliches, and so you don't know if he's arrogant or not. You can't tell. And he's never overpromised. So your disappointment's not as high. Lane Kiffin, running his mouth. Will Muschamp, running his mouth. Okay, so yesterday at the presser, they asked Will Muschamp how he's going to fare with recruiting. Is he going to do a good job with recruiting? Does he think that he's a good recruiter? To which Will Muschamp replies, he asks his wife to stand up. And then he says, look at my wife and tell me that I'm not a good recruiter. He just had her stand there, used his wife as a prop to prove that he's a good recruiter. And so it begins, the Will Muschamp era. Will Muschamp using his wife to prove that he's good at recruiting. He said, look at me, then look at my wife and tell me I'm not good at recruiting. Okay, fine. But like winning better come out of this. First off, you better get that recruiting class. Like there better be 5 stars headed to South Carolina this year. 4s and 5s, brother. Because you can't go out there with the all-time quote of look at my wife and then not show up. But this is what I'm talking about, because Butch Jones would never have said anything like that. It's not in his personality, and I get that they're different personalities. And look, I'm entertained that Will Muschamp said that. I'm not even saying that he's wrong. Okay, he's a little wrong using your wife as a prop, but like, I'm not saying he's wrong to be cocky in his recruiting abilities. You know, you're going to run out the old line there that you could sell a block of ice to a polar bear. You can go ahead and do that. That's fine. But now you've promised something and you better deliver. And some guys cannot stop themselves from saying these things. And you see the coaches that have a little bit of a longer leash, they keep their mouth shut. They say the 6 cliches that they're expected to say, like Butch Jones does. And when they finish 8-4, people are generally satisfied with that, because that's not a bad season, by the way. It's a pretty good season. And you weren't promised a national title. You weren't promised an SEC title. Butch Jones is going to keep playing it down until the day they fire him, or until the day he wins a national title. One of the two. He's just going to keep saying that the things are going to need to change in the locker room, and there's going to be a culture of change and something about change, and then some more generic things about change, like an Obama campaign. Just lots of generic words about change without really getting into any specifics. And he's going to keep saying that until one day we realize that it's a pyramid scheme, and we've just been buying Butch Jones products until we realize that we've not actually gained anything. We just keep buying stuff. Or it actually does pan out and Tennessee wins stuff. That could happen too. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. We're talking about a lot of the coaching changes. I think that if you're Miami, you've got Mark Richt. You're probably better than Georgia getting Kirby Smart. And here's why I say that. Kirby Smart, I think he's going to be a good coach. I feel like I'm in the minority on that, because everyone is so critical and so skeptical of Kirby Smart. And of course, the old cliche about a bird in hand being worth 2 in the bush. Why would you let go of Mark Richt to go after someone who could be better if you already had Mark Richt? I get it. But since Georgia went ahead and already let Mark Richt go, let's just look at the future here and say that Kirby Smart could be a really good coach. He's got a lot of things going for him. Sharp defensive mind. Good head on his shoulders. He's young. I don't know how many more years you had of Mark Richt anyway at Georgia. Kirby Smart's young. If he's good, then you've got a young coach for a very long time. Okay, I like that. I do. But Miami gets a lot more out of Richt than Georgia gets out of Smart, because Miami was in a much, much, much worse position. The Hurricanes were dreadful, and coach after coach after coach for them was just so bad. Like, if you could find a way to put together a losing streak of coaches, that would be Miami. To the point where the job kind of became toxic. Like, who wants to be the next coach at Miami? You know some shenanigans will ensue. You know something's going to happen, and it's not going to be good. Whatever it is. You know? So it came down to that with Miami, and Mark Richt, huge improvement from anyone they were going to hire before. And understand that nobody else was going to ever get Mark Richt but Miami, because Miami was going to continue to throw money at that man until he came that direction. There's no no one was going to outbid Miami for Mark Richt. They needed that. Plus, it's a nice sell. It's a nice sell. That's his alma mater. That's the place where he went to school and played quarterback. So, it works out just fine for Miami. And I think that Georgia gets a guy that in Kirby Smart that can really probably help to elevate this program if and only if the recruiting goes well. Mark Richt, heck of a recruiter. Can Kirby Smart fill those shoes? Is that possible? I don't know. Only time will tell. But it's hard to recruit in that area. Look, now people will go to Georgia. Georgia's got a lot of great high school athletes. You will get athletes to go to Georgia just because it's Georgia. There's loyalty there. They're going to go whether or not Mark Richt is the head coach, whether or not Kirby Smart is the head coach. They don't care. That's what Bill Bender was telling us, Sporting News National College Football writer, last week on Thursdays with Bill. Bill was telling us last week, people go to Georgia just to go to Georgia. If you're from there, that's where you're going. Okay, that you grow up rooting for the Bulldogs. You don't. I mean, Mark Richt, that's part of it. He's a good coach. I'm sure he came in, he talked to your parents and convinced them that going to Georgia was good for you, but you're going to Georgia because that's your school, and that's a dream. Playing for the Bulldogs is a dream come true for you. So Kirby Smart's going to be fine, I think, in terms of recruiting. I'm really interested in seeing how this changes the Georgia defense because Kirby Smart is very aggressive on defense. I'm interested in seeing how this changes the defense. And if that change in defense gives them a better shot than what they've had. If that change in defense gives them a better shot at all. Because they finished 9-3 this year. I don't know how you get better. The schools that Georgia lost to are good schools. They lost to Alabama, best team in the SEC. They lost to Tennessee at the point in the season for the Volunteers where they really started to get things rolling, where they really started to look good as a defensive unit, where they really started to score. Joshua Dobbs had his coming out party. I mean, can you really... And this season, they lost Nick Chubb halfway through the season. And still, despite all those things, running into a couple of good schools, losing Chubb, still finished 9-3. Like, is it fair to expect Kirby Smart to finish 9-3 also, to finish better than that somehow? And that's what I don't understand about the firing of Mark Richt. That's what I don't get. How do you expect Kirby Smart to do any better than that? You want your opportunity to win a title? There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee at all for you. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose, and we'll finish this conversation on coaching, the SEC, football, and we'll get into a little bit of basketball at the end as well. More with Clutch on with Keon Rose here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
We live in uncertain times. From extreme weather and natural disasters to civil unrest, don't panic. Be prepared. With protective gear and medical supplies, tactical and camping equipment, long-term food storage and water purification, ammunition and knives, alternative power solutions and lighting, P5 Preparedness has the products and training classes to help you through life's catastrophic events. P5 Preparedness at East Brainerd and Panorama Drive.
Celebrate the holidays with cheer and basement bargain prices at One Stop Package in the Sunrise Market Center, Sunny Daisy. The brand new One Stop Package beverage store on Old Dayton Pike, just north of the Thrasher Light, with the best prices in town. Enjoy the lowest prices on beer, wine, liquor, and soft drinks. Hey, mention you heard this ad on Hot News Talk Radio and get 5% off your purchase. That's right. Mention you heard this on the radio and you'll get 5% off. The brand new One Stop Package beverage store in Sunny Daisy. Their prices are always the lowest prices in town. The lowest prices you'll find in the finest of adult beverages. The brand new One Stop Package in South Sunny Daisy at the Sunrise Market, featuring great prices on gas, bread, and milk. The Sunrise Market just across from Charlie's in Sunny Daisy. And remember, always drink responsibly.
Get 10% off every case of wine.
The Fed raising rates, China's economy in trouble. Don't let headlines derail your long-term financial strategy. I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Patrick Neal. At Edward Jones, we provide the tools for a reasoned, disciplined approach to investing. Stop by my office next to the Target Shopping Center in Hickson, or call me at 423-870-7894. That's Patrick Neal at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
I'm the type of guy that likes a big breakfast, a couple of eggs, bacon, and some gravy and biscuits. I get that at Wimpy's. I know they have specials at lunch every day. That includes a big meat and three menu. At night, I want some good comfort food. Maybe some smoked brisket, pulled barbecue, or ribs. They've got that too. Wimpy's the type of place where you can go in and have a good conversation, catch up what's going on in Saudi Daisy, and have some great food. That's why I go to Wimpy's. You know where it's at, on Dayton Boulevard, right across from City Hall. That's Wimpy's. Give them a call, 423-332-6201. Did you hear me? It's 332-6201. Wimpy's. They're even on Facebook at Wimpy's. I know your mouth is watering just like mine, so let's go to Wimpy's.
So the Dodgers made a really cool trade for Aroldis Chapman. And then today, police report Aroldis Chapman fired gunshots. He choked his girlfriend in a domestic incident that, of course, brings to the forefront more domestic violence talk. That it's why, man? There's just a point where like you're going so far as to be almost cartoonish in this. That was a nice trade deal that the Dodgers had up until that happened, which is crazy. We were talking about coaching and how a lot of times coaches don't have personalities because when you do things like Will Muschamp does, the way he operates, which is to say seemingly whatever crosses his mind, your leash isn't very long. Like Nick Saban says a lot of things, but Nick Saban, even when he says things angrily, when he sounds emotional, it still comes off as calculated with Saban. Like Nick Saban is not just spewing words. You know, there are some guys, some coaches, quarterbacks, you know, suffer from diarrhea of the mouth. They just open up their mouth and just stuff comes out. And you're just listening to them going, what? That is Brett Bielema to like a T. I keep choosing him as my example because he's my favorite. Okay. They beat Texas last year half to death in whatever bowl game they were playing in because they all might as well be the same bowl game. They're all exhibition games with ridiculous names. The bowl game that they were playing in, Arkansas beats Texas to death, and Brett Bielema says afterwards during the press conference that the victory over Texas was borderline orgasmic. Like you can't say things like that, really. Like it doesn't make any sense to say something like that out loud and be serious in that you said it. But if you're Brett Bielema, you do. You very much do. The problem is Arkansas has some seasons, and this past season has been, they've just had some ridiculous losses. And when I say ridiculous, I mean just some losing games that they ought to have won, not even being competitive in games that they ought to have won. And I know that they've suffered some injuries. I get it. They suffered some injuries. I understand. Running the ball was harder for them. They did a lot more passing the ball this season. Like, they looked more like a spread offense than they've probably ever looked. But the things that Brett Bielema says when you lose games the way that they were losing games this season, some of those losses, the issue becomes now, like, how much can you take of that? How annoying does that start to become that you run your mouth while you're losing? Because it is annoying. It gets to be annoying. Ask any Jets fan with Rex Ryan as their head coach if they were happy while they were losing and he continued to just spew nonsense out of his face. Because that's what happened. It gets annoying. It gets old fast. And even though coaches, players, everybody should be allowed to have a personality, some personalities just get annoying with the losing more so than others. And you can experience this in your actual life. Like, pay attention to what happens in your family, what happens at your job when you are doing a job and adversity hits. Who's the most annoying person almost always? Is it not the person that won't shut up? Is it not the person that does all the talking? All of a sudden, when adversity hits, that person's the most annoying person in the room and they got to go. It's annoying. And, you know, as much as you want to say, I'm tired of the cliches and Butch Jones sounds like a robot who has 6 things that he was predetermined to say and you just plug them in and you push a button for the situation. Butch Jones is never going to be fired because of something that he said. He's never going to annoy people with stuff that he said. You know, it's bothersome, sort of, but he's never going to be the guy that, you know, I promised a victory over Alabama, and then when it doesn't come through, now we're ready to hang him. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Not from that guy. Because he goes out of his way to say some of the most boring things. And that could possibly be a show unto itself, is boring things that Butch Jones says. That you're just like, what? Just boring. No personality whatsoever. None. And I don't know how else to. There's no other way to describe that. He's got none. But the moment that a guy does show some personality, he's on watch. I mean, Lane Kiffin had 1 season at Tennessee, and part of that is he wouldn't shut up. If I'm going to be completely honest with you. He in fact, his job at USC, he probably also lost because he wouldn't shut up either. It's just, there's some jobs you just have to be boring. Like, being boring is just an occupational hazard of doing that job. I don't know how else you do that. I mean, like, the more outrageous of something that I say here, that's better for me in this job. College football coach? Nope. The less you say, the better. Better to be Mike McCarthy, Bill Belichick, Nick Saban than to be Brett Bielema, Will Muschamp. Muschamp's got to be careful here at South Carolina. Because they're not going to expect winning right away. But if he starts promising things that he can't deliver, it's going to get rough. It's going to get rough. So I'm looking up ahead, and this is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. Saturday, December the 12th, Army plays Navy in a game that is always fun because of the rivalry and the history between those two schools, and I don't think that anybody plays football quite the way that they do anymore, which is to say, passing the ball. Who needs to pass the ball? Triple option all day, baby. Triple option all day. There's just going to be a lot of running, and it's going to look ugly, and it's going to look hideous. But you know what's not going to look ugly and what's not going to look hideous? Is going to be those uniforms. Army and Navy have the coolest uniforms that they break out when they play each other, and Navy has gone all in. They are the first team ever with signature, hand-painted helmets. Each helmet has a vehicle in the Navy, be it a battleship or a cruiser or a submarine that corresponds with each member of the team. And that position will be wearing that helmet. So offensive linemen will have their own helmet, as opposed to wide receivers who will have their own helmet, as opposed to quarterbacks who will have their own helmet. And it's pretty intense. It's pretty serious. I suggest that you look that up. It's pretty cool. Is the game going to be fun? Probably not. Navy is way better than Army. The line there for that game is at 23. Minus 23 for Navy, which sounds about right. But man, that game is always worth the time. That game is going to be so much fun.
You like that? You like that?
We do like that. That's a good game. That's going to be a good game. The score is not what matters here, okay? Score is not what matters here. Nobody plays football like those two schools. Those two schools play football so bizarrely. It's strange. It's strange. I like it. Let's just run. Let's forget this thing where we try and pretend like we do anything else other than run. I'm fine with it. You know, I'm into a little bit of retro football to end the season for us before we head into bowl season. I think Mr. Judd and I are going to do our picks for bowl season before these bowl games fire up and get underway, and see how we go. Bring Russell back and have him pick against us based on his ways. Is it in-depth sports knowledge? No. Which team has the most interesting name? That's what's up. That's how you do it. Okay? That's the way to get that done. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about basketball. Just a little bit. Bear with me, okay? It is the college hoops here, because I'm interested in seeing about how these conferences are going to shake down here, especially the SEC, because I think the SEC going to be a tougher basketball conference this season than in previous years. Ben Simmons probably brings that up a lot. Tennessee, with Rick Barnes as their coach. Rick Barnes is, and we've talked about this again, in college sports, recruiting is huge. Recruiting is huge. And Tennessee's got a long way to go, losing some games to George Washington, losing a game to Nebraska, playing Butler on Saturday. In the next couple of years, it'll be interesting to see, can Rick Barnes turn Tennessee around, bring Tennessee basketball back? This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. I'll see you in 23 hours. And remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Always. Stay clutch.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Looking great out there through the afternoon with lots of sunshine, highs warming into the lower 60s. Tonight, fair.